Um, I will start this video by saying that anything you say against God will be held, uh, you will be held accountable. And I'm saying this to myself. I will go to the full logical conclusion of cultural Hegelianism, which means a mixture of religion, pop culture, and philosophy, and all the what Hegel calls the objective spirit, which is the process of world history. And Hegel says that there's no need to pray. Uh, a real intellectual should rather read the news, because the daily news are the manifestation of God's spirit on earth. So we should seek to understand. Russia is leading a total war. The truth is that God, which is the whole of reality, is leading a total war against himself, or against what Hegel calls the negative, which is this empirical being. So my transcendental self is waging war against my empirical self. And I will try to save myself. I have already said that in another video. I will try to save myself by removing guilt and shame from the actions of men, and I will prove them philosophically, culturally, religiously, that they are not free. So I will defend by rational arguments the worst scums of the earth, which will makes me the devil's advocate, and the whole world at some point will turn against me, because they will realize, wait a minute, we are an idea in your mind, but we don't find this idea very funny. And I will say, yeah, I understand your point of view, and whatever happens, happens, and I will suffer the consequences of my own behavior. But I will have proven that mankind is innocent, because everything is determined by God. And let me read you in Latin a few words by Spinoza. Ea res libera dicitur, quae ex sola suae naturae necessitate existit. It is said to be free, the thing which exists by the sole necessity of its own nature. So only God is free, because God obeys his own dialectical movement, and everything else is just puppets in God's show. Cuiuscunque rei assignari debet causa seu ratio. For each thing we must predicate a cause or a reason. And in the daily news today, I saw a journalist saying that Putin's behavior was irrational. But what people call irrationality is what Hegel calls reason, because reason is the reflection of self in reality. And if, I take that from Fichte, if you knew one determination from Putin, if you are logically consistent, you would be able to reconstruct the totality of world knowledge and prove that Putin is caught in a web of interrelated determinations which have made him act the way he acts. Maybe the political climate in Russia, there's a quote by Lil Wayne. He says, I see the pain hidden in your pride. And the Russians are a very proud people, and it is painful for them to have watched the collapse of the Soviet Union, and they have a will to take a revenge and to assert their own pride and to restore the greatness that they envision of their own country. So there's this motive factor acting within Putin. There are all the biological determinism that a man wants to act as the tough guy. He wants to impress other men, to settle a position of power and respect among his community. There's the economic causes. There are the personal history of Vladimir Putin, his relationship with his teacher, with his family, with his colleagues, whatever, which are reflected in his behavior. There's the whole geopolitical aspect, the relationship of Russia with natural resources, the total war which is led against Russia, which cuts off Russia from the financial resources, from the use of the banking system. If you were logically consistent, you would reconstruct all those factors, all those determinations, and prove that Putin is just the puppet of God. And I don't blame those who blame Putin, because they are as determined to blame Putin as Putin is determined to act negatively. I would like to quote a song by Bad Religion, "I Want to Conquer the World," and it is God who wants to conquer himself and conquer his own reality and become the intellectual master of his own world. And let me read Spinoza. Res nullo alio modo, neque alio ordine a Deo produci potuerunt, quam productae sunt. The things could not have been produced by God in any other way or in any other order than the order in which they have been produced. So from the nature of God, it necessarily follows that everything flows and is determined to be the way it is out of God's eternal inner necessity. And let me quote the lyrics from Bad Religion, "I Want to Conquer the World." "Hey man of science, with your perfect rules of measure, can you improve this place with the data you gather?" I cannot improve the place, but I can improve the view that people have of the place. And Spinoza says that the greater good is the intellectual cognition of God, amor intellectualis Dei, the cognitive love of God. And he says, the lyrics say, "I want to conquer the world, to conquer in thought, to make myself master of this, not by dominating politically with power, but dominating through a conceptual understanding of the whole of reality." And he says, the lyrics say, "I want to conquer the world in thought, give all the idiots a brand new religion." And all the idiots are the parts of me which are not yet fully awakened, and there are billions right now, and even myself, I'm not fully awakened. I'm in a process of awakening. And I am my own idiot in a way. I'm not insulting. I am my own private idiot. And the brand new religion is actually the oldest religion known to mankind, is that the bad guy gets punished for his evil deeds. And I understand the necessity of that. I myself, I don't like, it hurts my feelings, but it satisfies my intellect, because I understand that to commit a crime implies within the concept that the criminal wishes to be punished. This is what Hegel says, and if I were honest to myself, I would accept the divine retribution for having brought negativity within the real. But at the same time, by trying to save myself, by understanding the necessity of myself being punished, I will do my best to illuminate by rational relationships the whole of reality, and to liberate, this is the dialectical process between Christ and Antichrist, to liberate mankind from sin. And it's a very difficult position to defend Vladimir Putin, because he may or may not, I don't know, start a nuclear war. And I said at the start of the video that everything that you say against God will be held against you. So I am defending Putin, and what if in a few days or next week he start a nuclear war. Then my own thoughts, my own ideas will come back at me, and I will have to stand my ground, to stand firm, and to accept the coming back at me of my own ideas. And Putin will not be here to support me. He will say, I have nothing to do with this guy. I don't want to defend him. So I will be on my own. I will be confronted by my own thoughts, and I will have to find the inner strength to find Spinoza and Hegel and modern pop culture and Nietzsche and all the philosophers in the retribution that will be uh, held against me, and this is the most difficult thing. But yeah, so another news said that there's an anti-Putin front, and this is a dialectical process that spirit, by negating parts of itself, creates agglomerates or small totalities in a ways that now, at least in France, the entire French political spectrum is being united because it is confronted by the negation of Putin, and it is a dialectical process. Now people are starting to virtue signal, to feel a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a sense of brotherhood. And this is made possible by the work of the negative in the presence of Putin. And my work as the negative is to bring about the unity of the whole world against me, and to joyfully accept to be unified with this totality, so that we as a spiritual being shall become whole again, and shall start functioning as a interconnected totality. But my job, which I hate, but I have to do this nonetheless, is to bring about the unifying consciousness of God, so that God shall become a totality, thinking itself totally. Once again, God must be remembered, and it can only be achieved by the work of the negative. And there's another thing in the news. They say that Europeans are willing to accept Ukrainian refugees, but they reject Syrian, Afghan, and Eastern refugees. The refugee in the mind of God is the negative. So I am God's refugee, and no one except God will to accept me. So the images of the refugees in the real are the images of the fact that the negative, by being confronted by his own substance, is isolated, and he's his own refugee in his own substance. And in the absolute, we should accept all refugees, but it's easier said than done. And the reason why Europeans are willing to accept Ukrainians and not Eastern Europeans is because of biological determinism. Human beings are determined by Darwinian evolution, which is not strictly speaking absolutely true, but it gives an image of the logic, to favor those who share the same genes. It's sociobiology 101. And to blame someone for preferring his own kind to another group is being dishonest. And you have to accept that genetic kinship and favoritism and genetic nepotism is part of the human nature. And yeah.